You ever hear a patently ridiculous argument? Like, they're clearly wrong. And you engage, maybe you don't, but I do. You engage with the argument and you show them why they're wrong. This makes no sense. Your argument is flawed from the very foundations. You go back and forth, and it's maybe a protracted argument with lots of different people. And then, eventually, you think, wait a minute. This suddenly makes a little bit of sense. It's still wrong, but there's an argument here that no one has been making. Why haven't they been making it? No one has articulated this point. I am feeling this right now. In regards to the argument that that 4th edition D&D is basically the World of Warcraft tabletop game. It's WoW on paper, and that is in some way bad, and you should feel bad for liking it. And it's not D&D; it's just an MMO at your table. And like these kinds of statements, they're ridiculous. They are. Even with what I am about to say, they are a terribly flawed way to look at things. They're just wrong. But I think I have discovered the source, well, a source probably, a source of the confusion. Or not the confusion, but a source of the distaste or the argument that it is WoW-like or MMO-like, if you prefer. WoW usually is what is brought up. 4th edition has a thing that doesn't occur very often in other versions of D&D, and that is individual ability cooldowns. Every version of D&D has had cooldowns. You have a resource that you spend to do a thing. Usually, you only get this if you're a spellcaster. You spend a resource, and then after a certain amount of time, or possibly after you rest for a certain amount of time, you get that resource back. It cools down and is ready to use again. This is very common. I'm going to adjust here for a moment so that I don't keep shaking the camera. Every version of D&D has had this kind of thing. What 4th edition does that other versions don't do very much is have each individual ability on its own individual cooldown. So if I use, say I'm a wizard, I'm going to get hit. I use shield. Bing! Get a +4, +5, I think it's a +4, bonus to my AC and reflex save, by the way. Or not save, and AC and reflex defenses. Boom. Block the attack. I can't use shield again. It's on cooldown. I get it back in 5 minutes. I can still use other abilities that in 3rd edition or in 5th edition would use the same resource. In 5th edition, I can be a shield. Next turn, shield. Nope, shield. I can just keep doing it as long as I have spell slots available. Spells are inherently spammable, especially low-level spells, because you eventually get so many spell slots that they are functionally free. If you don't run out of spells by the end of the day, all of the spells that you cast that day, all the first-level spells that you cast that day are free. If you don't run out. Oh, man, I think that's a great big old grasshopper on the pole over there. Nice. Super distracted. But in 4th edition, each individual ability that is not an at-will ability has its own individual cooldown. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was specifically talking about the benefits of that design. And it got to thinking that that might be the source of why people say that 4th edition is MMO-like. Because in video games, you usually don't have a shared cooldown on abilities. Notably, Warcraft does have shared abilities on, or shared cooldowns on certain abilities. Or at least it did. I have not played WoW in 10 years? No, way more than 10 years. I've not played WoW in a long time. But when I was playing, there was certain shared cooldowns. But it was pretty uncommon. For the most part, each individual ability had its own separate cooldown. And that is the case for a lot of the computer video games that I have played. It is the case in Heroes of the Storm, another Blizzard game. It is the case in a lot of sort of action RPGs, Diablo, etc. Another Blizzard game. I have played a lot of Blizzard games, as it turns out. I don't so much anymore. So I wonder if this is a source of the comparison. If it is, it's strange to me because that has never been articulated to me in this way. And you'd think it would be. But for the most part, people don't talk about that particular difference. Now, I'm going to talk about it in as far as I think it is a superior design in general. It helps keep the game a lot more balanced, and it is so much easier to make cool, powerful abilities if you know that you're not going to be able to just do that one powerful ability over and over and over and over. As you are able to in 5th edition or 3rd edition or any other edition which has spell slots. You can just load up all your spell slots with the most powerful thing that you have and ignore all the rest. It's a little bit different when your most powerful thing you only get to do once, and you have to do other things. Even other things that share a cooldown or share a cooldown type with it. And that's one of the reasons, like the most chief example I've already mentioned is the shield spell. In 4th edition, shield is an encounter power. It's a relatively low level encounter power. I want to say it's level 2. It's either 2 or 6. I don't remember, but it's pretty low level. I think it's 2. And it does actually more than it does in 5th edition, because in 4th edition, it does the bonus to your AC and your reflex, functionally giving you the bonus to AC and it'd be your dex saves is sort of the conceptual equivalent. Imagine if it applied to both of those things for the entire duration. And it costs nothing. There's no opportunity cost. Like it doesn't stop you from casting other spells. So it's really cool. It's really powerful. It's actually more powerful in 4th edition than it is in 5th on a per cast basis. The issue then is that it is its own cooldown. It takes 5 minutes to recharge. So you can't just cast it every turn, which is a way better design, right? Because the whole problem with shield in 5th edition is it really screws with bounded accuracy, or whatever we are pretending is bounded accuracy in this system. You know, once you bump your AC up to be even moderately high, you add shield on top of that, you're more or less untouchable, except on nat 20s. And you can do that as often as you have first level slots, and you have a lot of first level slots. Actually, I mean, you can upcast it, so you can do it as often as you have slots. And you get, on average, more than 1 slot per level. So the number of times you can cast shield just skyrockets from ground zero. It goes shoot straight up. And it becomes a problem mostly because of how spammable it is. It becomes extremely cheap. You sort of throw it out without even thinking. Like, do I need to avoid this guy? Maybe he's only going to do like 6 damage. I don't care. I'm a shield. Might as well. It's so cheap. It's like it becomes a throwaway spell that's also super powerful. And so that, I think, really exemplifies why having individual cooldowns on abilities is a better system than having shared cooldowns. Or I should say, multiple charges of a shared cooldown resource. Spell slots cool down after you complete an extended rest, or a short rest if you're a warlock. These spell slots recharge after a certain amount of time, and they're sort of assumed that you're going to take these rests when you are able. It is also assumed so in 4th edition. It's particularly short rests, you're kind of assumed to take one after every encounter. So you're going to have your encounter powers back for every encounter, which is why they're called encounter powers. It's pretty simple. And I think that there's the issue with the shared resource really comes down to spammability. There are spells in 5th edition that would be fine if they were not spammable, if you could only do them once in a given period. But you add spammability or the ability to cast it more than once, and it becomes an issue. And this has been an issue. This was an issue in 3rd edition, which they fixed in 4th edition, which they unfixed in 5th edition, which you'll notice is a pattern. That's why some of us refer to 5th edition as the regressive edition. The designers really figured out the problems with 3rd edition and went in and fixed it aggressively, maybe too aggressively. And so people didn't like that for one reason or another. And so they have regressed. They have pulled back and they have unfixed a lot of the problems. And we're sort of seeing a resurgence of people complaining about those problems now. Talking about, summoning ruins the action economy. Talking about, casters are way too powerful. Marshals are way too weak. These kinds of things come up all the time now. You see them on Reddit boards. You see them in Discords. The community knows that these problems exist. I think a lot of the community doesn't know that they didn't always exist, and they don't have to exist. They exist by choice, which is the frustrating part. But this is one small piece of it, and I think that this might be the reason why the line to MMOs gets drawn. Though this has never been articulated to me quite this way. But I think that might be it, because I made that connection the other day, and I thought that might be the source of it. And I think it's a very superficial connection. It's still a wrong argument. It's still an emphatically wrong argument, and it is flawed at every level. But I think that people who look at things on a surface level might see that and make that connection. So, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm just reading into things. I do tend to sort of devil's advocate myself a lot. So maybe that's just what it is.